Welcome to BladeBound Saga.
Welcome to Duality, a Daggerheart community podcast where we bring together creators, influencers, and storytellers within the Daggerheart space. This series is all about exploring the heart of the game by connecting it to the people who bring it to life. I'm Daniel, your host, and this show is proudly brought to you by BladeBound Saga. In each episode of Duality, we invite a special guest to create a Daggerheart character based on their real-life self. Together, we'll explore their choices, traits, and experiences, building a character that represents their journey. However, what makes Duality stand out is that our guests will also face an encounter where they'll use the character they just made to battle an adversary at the end of the episode. Along the way, we'll roll Duality Dice to answer questions about their stories of triumphs and struggles through what we know in Daggerheart as hope and fear. So please join me in welcoming today's guest, Isaac Allen Burns from the Dodoborne Podcast.
Hope, fear. You roll the dice. Duality.
Isaac, welcome. First person to join this kind of podcast with the actual game rules. The last 4 episodes have been with like pre-beta stuff, and we finally caught up to the game launching.
We do. We have the full rule set. All secrets revealed.
Yeah, everything except for the void, which is something new. More secrets, more and more secrets I'm daring to press.
Honestly, though, they're messing me up with the new domain, the domain of dread.
Gosh, man, I'm so excited to see. I did a whole review thing, and I think it's pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Yo, I haven't had a chance to like dig into it, but the little bit that I've heard of where downtime activities become a part of like the mechanics, just I love it. I love it so much. Oh my goodness.
We're talking about other things. It's not even
sorry.
We're here. No, it's good. This is how it is. Okay. I want to know, who are you? I just said that you're from the Dodoborne Podcast, but for those who've been living maybe a little under the rock, who are you? Where do you come from?
My name is Isaac Allen Burns. I am the GM of the Dodoborne Podcast, a Daggerheart TTRPG podcast. Somewhat new on the scene. We released this a couple months ago, but really excited to see how it's going. So excited to be here.
Yeah. I think one thing that I said this on the very first couple episodes in the comments, that I really was drawn to the Dodoborne podcast like immediately, and I've just been listening since, is just how good the audio quality is.
Hey, all proceeds got to go to Joe. All proceeds to Joe. He stepped in and really took it and ran with it. Back when we were like, yeah, we'll just like 4 mics on a table. Why not? He did a deep dive.
Yeah.
So he it's all thanks to Joe. He even taught me how to edit. So I gotta give I can take not as much as I want to sit here and be like, it's actually me. I've edited every podcast. I gotta give it to Joe. So
yeah. I'll definitely have to, because I think we might be having some more members of the show come on eventually. I think we'll definitely have to cross that. Maybe if we get Joe on the podcast, who knows?
Hey, he can tell you all about it. He's told me a few times of all the things, and I've held on for dear life every conversation. So,
before we jump into the character sheet, because you've made something for us, let's jump into our first roll of the night. Go ahead and roll me a duality. We'll see what you get, and then we'll ask a general question to start this thing going.
All right. 2d12 coming up. I so rarely get to roll these as a GM.
Yeah, it's all D20 still for me.
Same. I have a 12 with fear.
12 with fear. Okay.
Starting off strong.
I'll take
roll
that
fear just for you. Yeah, just for you, buddy. I want you to have that fear.
All right. What is a dream that you had to let go of, and why?
Oh, see, that's a good question. Wow. You have to make me think a second. A dream of like admittedly, when it comes to dreams, I'm a heavy sleeper and I don't often dream. I feel like the only time I remember my dreams are when they're horrific, nightmarish. But I gotta say, so I play music from time to time, and when I was younger, I had this idea that I would do something more with that. I think sort of a creative process of maybe I'll make music with people, maybe I'll start a band, and something I kind of had to realize with music is that I have a tough time singing and playing music in front of people. Like when I am by myself, it is not a problem. But there's just something about like when I have to be in front of people or even play with people, I just get so tensed up, and it's almost like too vulnerable. Like music became a little too personal. And so even though like I would tell people like, oh man, we should start a band, like, oh, we should do this, every time like it gets up to it, or like, oh, let's jam, it just goes away from me. I don't know what it is. Like I'm like pretty open and honest, like being a person, being around, talking to strangers, talking to people, uh, being on a podcast, being on a stream like this. But there's just something about music where no matter how important it is to me, I think I've just had to accept that it is not a failure on my part, that I don't feel comfortable bringing that part of me out to other people and just keeping it to myself, which for the longest time I thought like, oh, I'm not very good, there's something wrong with me. But yeah, that's something I've sort of had to give up on as far as creative pursuits is doing really anything with music, unfortunately.
Okay, I am curious. You've talked about music though. What
Yeah.
instrument or did you play? Does that have to be asked?
Oh, of course. So I did learn guitar when I was younger. I played a little Guitar Hero when I was young, and so then it became a guitar that was in my hands. But I really like bass guitar. I had learned piano. I took piano lessons when I was much younger, and so I still sort of retain some of that piano. And every so often, I'll like play one or two songs, but mostly bass guitar. A lot of percussive stuff. Never like drum set, but my father was actually in the old fife and drum corps in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Army. And if you've ever seen the drums they use, they're these huge hand painted old style marching drums, like not the like really tinny small ones you'll see in modern marching bands, but each snare is like a beautiful work of art. And I have my father's snare. So when I was younger, like I learned how to do a little bit of percussion and snare drum, but kind of a wide variety. Nothing that would require breath, but a lot of percussive stuff, a lot of guitar. So
yeah, I played drums for 8 years, and I haven't touched a drum set in probably like 3. But
really,
I have to ask because
yeah,
I used to play with a couple people every so often, but now it's not really a thing that I do.
Did you do band in school? Like, did you do drumline?
I played trombone.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I wanted to play the drums, but my band teacher told me, like, if you want to be able to, or I picked the drums and I really wanted, or I would play the trombone, I really wanted to play drums. But then my band teacher said, because he showed off him doing drums and stuff, if you just want to play drums, to do that, don't learn how, or don't join drumline. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I do want to do that. And then from there, I just never got into it until like 3 years later in high school, where I dropped the trombone and just learned how to play drums. Like, oh, and I've never played in like band, but I always played like in like the drum set. So
nice.
yeah,
that's cool.
All right,
that's part. You could be a ska band with a trombone.
Yeah. So let's jump into your character sheet.
Yes.
First section here. Your class, your subclass, and your ancestry, which in Daggerheart is combined between your ancestry and then your community. So, Isaac, why did you pick the bard and specifically the wordsmith? I think we know a little bit here, but yeah.
Of course. Well, I love telling stories, right? But at the same time, I feel like, we were actually talking before we started recording about jobs and all, and I am a water resources engineer. And so I deal with a lot of math. I deal with a lot of Excel spreadsheets. I deal with a lot of a corporate environment. And as someone who still likes doing creative things and telling stories, I often feel like a jester strapped to a blue button down and khaki pants. And so one thing I liked about Bard was that they elected to choose the Grace domain and the Codex domain, because
Oh, okay.
if you've ever done anything creative like art or music or really anything, you know that talent can only get you so far. You have to put in like effort and time and practice. And there is a study that goes into these things, right? And I felt like the Bard, with the eye of Codex being one of the domains, really felt like it was a good mesh between those two, because I am so often in like deep technical conversations with people about engineering and about, flow rates and hydrology and hydraulics. But at the same time, I still just want to, go home and play Daggerheart or anything else just to get into like a fantasy world. And so Bard really spoke to me more than Wizard did, just because while there is so much of that codex type intelligentsia, there's still that sort of gracefulness to it as well. And wordsmith, because like I said, I feel more comfortable telling stories with my words than playing music. So I felt more called to a wordsmith. So
Yeah. I think you're the first person who said something specifically about the mixed of the domains. Because like I think that's the one thing about Daggerheart that is incredibly unique, is the idea of shared domains and like sharing something with another class. But then I don't know who put it together. I think it was one of the Darrington Press people who said something about when one domain meets another domain, they come together and make a class. And it really is just like that style of like, I don't think anyone's like really distinctively mentioned that, just like the vibe of the class. But this one I think makes a whole lot of sense as soon as you started explaining it.
Yeah. And I love the domains, because you can do so much with it. Not only just like on what's there, but also thinking about combinations of those other domains. And it gives a little flexibility, right? Because you have two of them and you can pull cards from either of those domains, it really gives you flexibility on which side you want to be on and focus on. So yeah, that's what pulled me to a Bard.
And your community is Loreborn. Is there a specific like pull from like your upbringing that really like made Loreborn like you?
Yeah, so I would say that I grew up in a sort of, and this sounds almost pretentious, but in a curious household, right? Mm-hmm. Like learning was something that I always enjoyed, right? A lot of relationships I have now came from when I was in college and when I was in graduate school. And even when I was younger, like studies was my favorite thing to do. I love math and science and anything I could learn. And even the way that I approach hobbies tends to be in a sort of, I want to learn everything about it. Like I want to learn it. Perhaps it is a touch of the ADHD hyperfixation, but like I get deep into it. Like I finish a video game and it's like, well, now I'm going to go troll the web to see what other things people saw. And I want to learn everything about it. And like, who produced this? What else have they made? So Loreborn really touched me a little more than the others, just because it's this idea of growing up in almost like a research environment where you're here to learn, where learning is a journey and a process that you go on that you're never quite done with, which feels very real to me. So
for sure, I think that makes total sense. Which then brings us to our ancestry, because you're the second person, I think. Oh man, now I need to like remember the last name. I'm pretty sure the second person who picked mixed ancestry. Why? What are the two, and then why what does it make for you?
So I really love mixed ancestry, because whenever the few times I would ever actually play a TTRPG, anything that came from like mixed background, like a half orc or a half elf, really spoke to me, because I've tend to grown up in such a way where I can't be comfortable in a monoculture. Like I want a diverse group of people around me to feel comfortable. I'm never quite I'm not quite manly enough to stick with the boys, but that sort of thing.
Sure.
And so what was fun about mixed ancestry is the ability to sort of make it your own. And there were two specific things. I went through each of them just to see like what were the things that stuck out to me. What were the big things? And first of all, goblins. I love goblins. I love mischievous little guys running around causing chaos. I myself tend to be a mischievous little guy causing chaos. But the thing that I really liked about goblins was their danger sense. Because I'm not quite sure-footed, I would say. But the danger sense is fun because I don't even think that it comes from a like innate sense of danger, like they can just sense when it's coming. But I tend to think for goblins, they're somewhat minuscule, they're somewhat diminutive. But I imagine that they're just looking around, their eyes are wide with terror, looking around, trying to figure out what's coming next, where's it coming from? Which is something very true to my life as someone who has dealt with anxiety before. So oftentimes it comes out as just a pit of dread in my stomach that is inexplicable. I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm still on edge. I'm still looking for it. When's it going to happen? I'm prepared for it. But at the same time, another ancestry that I've always really liked is the Inferni, the devil people, the horned people, because there's something about being seen and being perceived in a certain way, regardless of how you actually are. And that's probably because when I was younger, I was maybe bullied a lot. The size of my eyebrows and my lips is the exact same size now that they were when I was 4 years old. So needless to say, a lot of people picked on the poor nerdy kid. But that didn't really define me. But Inferni kind of have to deal with that a lot given their visage, right? But what was fun about Inferni, something that they had was called Fearless, because although I have talked about perhaps having a bit of anxiety, I am socially fearless, unfortunately. I am an extrovert through and through. Awkward is not a word in my dictionary. I will talk to anybody. I will talk to a brick wall if it'll listen to me. I am a talker. There is so little social anxiety in my body that I have to lean on my partner, Harper, to tell me when things perhaps were awkward or things I shouldn't have said or maybe jokes that didn't land just because it's I'm just bowling forward fearlessly in the conversation. So I just enjoy talking to people. I enjoy socializing. And so I'm very fearless in that regard. So that's those are two things that really stuck out to me. So I like to imagine that I'm a little goblin running around causing chaos. And instead of horns, I have a tail. I have a little devil tail.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool because I think one thing from exactly what you just said, and part of it doesn't even necessarily have to do with the exact mixed ancestry you picked, but I feel like a lot of times some people are like, oh, I can't have anxiety and be like fearless at the same time. It's like, no, we as human beings can have these degrees of how we feel, and that's perfectly normal. Like we are not fully just binary individuals who only have a sense of one emotion. We can be multiple people, or we can have multiple feelings.
Yeah, you contain multitudes, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love that. All right. That's so cool. I absolutely love this series, especially because I get to know people I don't know and get to learn more about people.
Right.
But that does finish that section. So in between every section, we roll duality to ask another question. Go ahead and roll me another set of D12.
That is a 15 with hope.
15 with hope. Okay. On the brighter side of things.
Sure,
okay.
I take that.
Yeah. Go ahead and add that hope because you'll need it for later. So what do you enjoy the most about introducing others to tabletop RPGs?
I love introducing new people to TTRPGs solely because when someone comes in fresh and new, they are a blank slate. Who knows what they're going to do? Some of the most fun I have ever had is people who are playing for their first time, or maybe they've played like years ago and they want to come in because you never know what they're going to do. You have no idea. I have no clue. They often approach things from such a different perspective because I've played TTRPGs for like 10 years at this point, right? And so you think that you've seen it all, or you think that you know what they're going to do or what to expect. But truly a new player with no bias of past experiences, with kind of no idea what they're doing, are going to come up with insane things that are so amazing and so incredible, right? You'll have someone who just comes in and immediately starts conflict with an NPC, and everyone's like, no, we're not supposed to do that. But just seeing where it'll go, seeing how it goes, literally, it's It's so great. It's so great because you just get to see like where different people are coming from, different perspectives. And I love sort of being on a back foot as a GM sometimes. I love kind of going in places I'm not expecting.
Mhm.
And even in things as quick as a one shot, you can wind up in insane places. And so that's what I love most about introducing it. And hopefully they want to play more and do more and we add to the community. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think sometimes, especially with new players, there is while they're still learning the game, there's still a lot of stuff. Like there's always those like small hurdles of like mechanics and all that stuff. But I think one thing that they really bring into the table is one, that new perspective, but you don't have to unteach them other like not necessarily bad habits, but just other game systems. Like
Yes.
I think Daggerheart specifically, I love sharing or teaching people who have never played a tabletop RPG, because sometimes it's easier to teach them how to play Daggerheart than someone who's been playing D&D for like 10 plus years.
Yes.
Because they just have no perspective of like what other possibilities. And so they really just say, I'm gonna do this. And it's like, sure, you can do that. Let's figure out how to do that now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when like with other more crunchy TTRPGs like D&D and like Call of Cthulhu, you look at the list of skills and it's borderline overwhelming. Like
Yeah.
how I just want to make a sneaky thief. What do I do here? So if you want to make a sneaky thief in Daggerheart, that could just be your experience, a
Yeah.
sneaky thief.
Sneaky
And
thief.
that could
Yeah.
encompass all the things. It's so great.
That's great. All right. Let's keep this moving. I'm
Let's keep it
going to
going.
ask you some questions on some of the traits
Yeah.
and stats. I first want to ask about your highest stat, which I feel makes sense given a bard, being presence, and being an extrovert, and kind of talking a little bit about your past with like some anxiety and awkwardness. Like, how do you feel the 4 presence like really speaks to like that part of you?
So like I said earlier, unfortunately extroverted. The E in the Myers-Briggs is at 99%, right? And that includes uh, mostly the social aspect of it, but also there is a level of performance that comes from it because at the end of the day, I feel like a performer and I am an engineer. And so Uh, one thing that is a bonus and isn't a benefit to me is that when it comes time to go to a work conference, when it comes time to present, when it comes time to talk to people, I am right there. Listen, I am begging managers to let me do a presentation. I don't even need to know what it's about before me. Just put me in front of there. I'm going to have that whole room going. That is just the kind of presence that I know that I personally have, right? Most people took the technical writing track in college and I took public speaking, right? It's just, and when it comes to presence, it's not just charisma. It's not just like friendliness, but it's a presence. It's you take up the space. And having sort of grown up very small, getting to learn how to take up space and learn how to be present in these moments is a big thing for me and has been great. And it's something I tell people to do all the time. Take up the space, take up the space. Don't feel like you need to be quiet. Don't feel like you can't say something. Don't feel like you cannot enact your will upon the world. Be present, be in that moment. And so presence was certainly the number one thing. So
Yeah. And so let's kind of flip this then. With your lowest trait,
yep.
with the strength at a -1, as all
Negative one.
characters have a -1, unless you choose to opt in. I feel like as an engineer, though, you might need some, but why -1 for strength?
Listen, I know working out is important. I know strength is important. I know that I should have a constitution to withstand things. But unfortunately, as I am not dedicated enough to work out. I am weak. I have weak arms. I am not the guy you come to to help you lift heavy things. I am here for moral support. If we are moving heavy things, I will tell them how great of a job they are doing. And also, I grew up with a lot of health issues. I suffer from asthma, unfortunately, which means working out or doing it's exercise induced. So anything exercising becomes a bit of a challenge. And so was at the doctor a lot growing up. Thankfully, because my dad was military, we had that TRICARE insurance. You know what I
Sure,
mean? It
yeah.
was no problem.
You take
No
that.
problem to be
Yeah,
a doctor. Yep. They had me on Augmented when I was like 6 years old, let me tell you. So I perhaps don't have the best constitution. So it felt, of all of them, strength felt the most apt to perhaps take the hit on, because I am the first to admit I am not strong. I will absolutely lose to you at arm wrestling. I will. I'm not even going to try. You don't
No.
even to worry about me. So that is, which is funny. I say this, and at the same time, I'm also someone who was a black belt when I was in high school. Let me just be very clear. 16-year-old Jeremy and 16-year-old Isaac could kick my ass. 16-year-old Isaac could kick my fucking ass. Terrible, awful. It's yeah, and I don't have that strength anymore, man. I don't have it.
Yeah. I think sometimes I feel like past versions of myself could definitely do the same for myself. So you are not alone
You get it.
In that sentiment. So
You get it. It's busy. It's busy. It's like one of the first things that goes too. Whenever I've been in states of mind, I used to run. Like, I feel like during the pandemic, I was a runner. I would just go out and run on Greenway, but I don't got it anymore. I can't do it. It's bad on my knees.
Pandemic Daniel is in a much better physical position than 5 years post-pandemic Daniel.
Yep.
So, yeah. All right. And then I did want to hint at one more, which I think this makes sense given your background, but knowledge being a +3, your second highest stat. Yep. Anything else you want to speak about that?
Let me tell you, I love learning things. I love learning new things. I love learning things I've never heard before. And I unfortunately have a brain that keeps it all there. Very unfortunately. I sometimes cannot remember my partner's phone number, but let me tell you, I can remember every secret chest in Chrono Trigger from 1990, whenever. And I could still write out the Bernoulli's equation for you right now. I had a whole class in grad school that was just taking the Navier-Stokes equation, which, for those who know, you understand how insane this thing looks. Taking that equation, putting assumptions to it, and just breaking it down piece by piece to get every single hydrology and hydraulic equation that we use still to this day, because the math has not changed since the 1800s. That is, I have that sort of academic with smartness that comes from just having to deal with being an engineer. So it, not to say that I'm the smartest person, because I am not the smartest person, but I do have, unfortunately, a lot of facts and knowledge on things.
Yeah.
So take me to trivia.
Sometimes the brain stores things, and you look over and you just happen to pull that book out of your little library, and you don't know how it got there, but it was there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't know. It's my mind palace. Not really. Right. I don't have a mind palace.
Next section is going to be my favorite, but before we jump into that, go ahead and roll me another duality.
All right. See what we got. Okay. A 13 with hope.
13 with hope. Go ahead and add that hope then.
Kind of sad. I was hoping I would.
All right. 13 with hope. What fictional character, or what is a fictional character you have connected with deeply from any media? Or just someone that feels represents you best?
Gosh, it's a good question. I have a couple answers, and I don't know which one to give, because I feel like some of them are ridiculous. So I'm gonna roll.
Feel free to give me a couple. Give me a couple.
Okay. One of them I gotta say is probably Michelle from Dairy Girls. If you've watched Dairy Girls, Michelle is the loudmouthed one who causes the problems and keeps things moving. But she is a side character, and something that I always resonate with are side characters and stories where they are progressing the plot forward. They're the one who are ripping a corkboard off the wall and bringing it to a bridge in Ireland so that they can talk about how they're going to break into the restaurant and get whatever the food is. I can't remember what the episode was. That is certainly one. I would say another one, this one is very topical, I would say, actually, is Mael from Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
At the time of this recording, I have not gotten past even the first act.
No! Okay. Then I won't reveal.
No. Continue. I feel
No
like I've
spoilers.
spoiled enough, but go enough in depth so we understand the
bad.
character for those who have not seen. I have been crazy busy.
Oh no, I understand. So the story. So this game is one that contains a lot of different themes, and a lot of different people will get different things from it. But something that I got from it personally was losing yourself in a creative work. And not to make it too personal and vulnerable, but in 2022 was when my anxiety sort of broke through the levee, where all my resilience kind of went out the window, and it was a tough, long half a year of kind of constant anxiety. Right, I wasn't going to therapy, I wasn't medicated at the time, and so I was just trying to move through it with my own mental toughness, and that was not working. But something that would help is during that time, I had a game of D&D that I had been running for years. It had been since 2019, pre-pandemic, and was still going on. And something that would help is in the quiet moments when the anxious thoughts would tend to take over and spiral me down, I would think about the campaign. I would talk as NPCs. I would imagine what's going on in the background. What's this character doing? What's happening here and there? And I would distract myself from those thoughts with that game, right? And so while that was good, a good coping skill, it was not something that could fix the problem. It was not solving the root issue. It was a bandage at best, which if that plus other things was in place, then perhaps it would be good. But at the end of the day, I was using it as a coping mechanism to not address the root issues and to not get better help. And it wasn't until I took the step of going to therapy, looking into medication, that my anxiety came to a place where things like meditation and going on walks could actually work. Because at the time, those things just made it worse. It was so bad. And so the story of Expedition 33, and I hate this, you already know the grand thing of it. There is a theme of getting lost in your creative work to the detriment of yourself and those around you. And so the story of that hit me hard. It was one of those things where I finished the game and I was in a slump for like 2 weeks afterwards. I didn't want to do anything. It put me down. But that story was just so real and resonant to me because of that, because I had been there before in a place where I was losing myself, and literally all my hobbies were around it. Like I was painting miniatures, I was doing cardboard, I was like ripping up cardboard boxes to make houses and terrain. Like all of my time was spent on this. And while it helped a little bit, it wasn't the thing that fully solved. I don't even want to say solved, but actually helped out. So those are two good ones. That last one was really long.
That was great. First, I'll say if you are ever in that situation too, first go get some help. As someone who also has gone through therapy, like even if you feel like you are on that, like, oh, I don't really need it, it's like try it. Like you don't know what comes out of it, and I can speak for my therapy sessions. It has helped tremendously, and even now it's like, is everything solved? Not really. And there are good weeks, bad weeks, but definitely like hard recommend it. Get help, find a friend.
Agreed.
And second,
not to bring down the mood. Not to bring down the mood at all.
Great. No,
not to be too transparent.
This show is for everyone else who is watching as well. And so if that's someone, even one person out there, totally worth taking a second. And second, I definitely want to play more Expedition 33, even more so now after that.
So good.
I followed the game for like 2 years. And so like by the time it came out, I was like, oh yes, I get to play like day one, and I got maybe one other day and I still haven't touched the game, like barely. That's besides the point. Let's stop forgetting about, or let's try to forget about me not playing Expedition 33. And let's jump into my favorite section, which is experience. And let's go with bottom up, and then because the last one, I don't really know what to make of that first one. So let's start with the bottom. Infatuated with water. I think this one makes sense. Go ahead and explain Infatuated with water for me.
Well, A couple ways to go with it. Obviously, stormwater engineer. I deal with water all the time. I love doing 1D, 2D rain on grid H&H modeling in Heckgrass. For those who
I
know,
love what you
you
just
know
said,
what I'm
but
talking
great.
about. That's right. Heckgrass 6.7. It's coming out beta 3. Let's go. It's got shallow water equations in the pipe networks. Anyways, but yeah, I'm in too deep, man. I'm in too deep. Someone pull me out. But the other thing is that I am a hydrated person. I am hydrated. My favorite drink is water. They once at my job had a health challenge where they were like, oh, you get different points for taking the stairs, for getting 10,000 steps. And you got 1 point for every 16 ounces of water you drank. After the first day, they changed the rule because of me specifically. And in my defense, I had a migraine that day, so I was drinking a lot more water than normal. But I did get to 148 fluid ounces, and that was so many more points than everyone else. And they were like, "We can't let this happen. Isaac is killing us in these numbers." So they changed the rules on me, and so then I didn't participate because I was so upset. I was like, "This was my ace in the hole. Come on." So, but yeah, I love water. It's delicious. Everyone should drink more water.
Drink your water, everyone.
Drink your water. Those are the two.
Anyway.
Also, rain. I love being in rain. I love it when it rains. Petrichor smells so good.
You're saying words, and it's like it's that level of nerd that you have like put yourself in a subcategory of nerd that like I myself as a fairly nerdy person feel like I have just lost, which I do that to other people most of the time. But now being on the receiving end, I'm like, oh, this is how it feels. Okay, great.
Truly, like we were talking about with knowledge, sometimes my 11th grade vocabulary lessons will just come screaming back to me randomly, where a word that I haven't used in years will somehow pop in my brain. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm feeling lugubrious today. And people are like, what word is that? And I was like, it means sad and tired. And then half the time we look up the word and it's not the definition I thought it was. And then they make fun of me and it's all good fun. But
yeah, which, speaking of all good fun, making fun of people, your third experience is, and you said this a little bit, maybe phrased it a little differently earlier, but jester trapped in a blue button up and khakis.
Yep. I like I said, I'm a clown sometimes. I made it my mission during the pandemic to decrease productivity in the office whenever I would go in because Isaac is a talker. So there are some people who come to work, they go to their cubicle, they sit down, they don't talk to anybody, they get their work done, then they go home, and that's absolutely valid. That is 100% a way to do it. And I am not built like that. I am not that kind of person. I have to talk to somebody. I am chatty. I am the annoying chatty person in the office. The office I'm currently in is full of annoying chatty people, admittedly, so it works out great for me. But my goal in any situation, no matter how dry the technical conversation is, I'm always trying to make people laugh somehow. I'm always trying to get jokes in there. I feel it is a badge of honor if I can get someone who is 2 levels above me to chuckle in a way that tells me it's a little more than polite. Sometimes even if it is polite, I'll take the win. But I just I want to leave people feeling good having met me and interacted with me. So but at the same time I have to be professional. So I gotta, which admittedly the reason I will not go very high in the corporate world is because who I am is who I am. The way I am right now is not much different than what I am like on a Teams call discussing, an ICM model. So I am ultimately, I understand I'm a jester. I'm a little too much sometimes.
That's great. All right. This one I feel like I resonate with because I feel like I've said this myself too many times. Your second experience is, I'll help you move.
Yep. I will help you move. I am going to be there for you. I spent 2 weeks in high school working for a moving company, and I thought I was going to die because every day I would come home and my back would feel terrible, but I learned so much. And so I will help you move. I love being there for friends. I think that it's so rewarding for me personally if I can help someone out, even if it's just, I'm out of town on the weekend. Can you check on my cats? The answer is yes. I would love to check on your cats. No, you don't need to pay me or buy me dinner. You're my friend. I want to help you out. And I thought that in my later years I would not be helping people move. But in 2024, I helped 3 people move. And I'd do it again too. I love it. My job though, admittedly, because you might be wondering, oh, but Jeremy, you're so weak. Your arms have no muscle. And you're totally right. I can't really lift heavy things. I'm not the guy moving the mattress, right? I am the guy on the truck, making sure everything fits and making sure nothing's going to get scratched or broken. I will help you move. I will absolutely do something for someone else in a heartbeat if I can.
That's awesome. That's great. And I feel like I end up being that person as well, which sometimes is to my detriment because then I overbook myself.
Yep.
And I say yes. It's like I'll be moved. Like, didn't you say that you were gonna do this? Like, dang it, I just agreed to that. Now and then I get put in the predicament of having to figure out who I'm gonna help because I cannot be, unfortunately, in 2 places at the same time.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah. And your last experience or your first experience here. Hell yeah. I hear you say that a lot on the podcast, so I understand the phrase, but why hell yeah?
So I'll tell you exactly what I mean by hell yeah.
Okay.
Which, yes, if you have listened to Dodoborne, you have probably heard me say that once or twice or 3 times an episode. It is my go-to. I am a big supporter. I'm a supporter. Absolutely. I will help you. Hell yeah, that's awesome. There is enough doubt in people's minds that I don't need to put any more in there. I'm here to support you. I'm here to validate you. If you want to try and do something, if you have an idea for anything, I'm going to be the first one in line to be like, hell yeah, man, you should do that. Absolutely. I love hearing people talk about things. I'm also an instigator in the best way, which is that if someone says, for instance, here's a story from my real life that occurred recently. I was with a group of people. I was at a pool party and someone said, oh yeah, like I know way too much about all 7 Children of the Corn movies. And I was like, there are 7 Children of the Corn movies? They said, yeah, there are, but I don't want to talk about them. And I was like, well, now I have to know about all 7 Children of the Corn movies. Hell yeah, tell me about all 7 Children of the Corn movies. And she started talking about the first Children of the Corn movie, and her partner from across the pool yelled out, are you talking about Children of the Corn? Stop talking about Children of the Corn. And I was like, no, keep telling me about Children of the Corn. I want to hear. If people come to me with like, oh, I've got like this hyperfixation. I have this thing I know a lot about. I have this thing I'm super into. I want to know about it. Tell me about it. Yes, please. I am a big supporter. So I imagine mechanically, hell yeah, would come into place if I am ever supporting the actions of another person, no matter how ill-advised they may be, or if I am rallying or encouraging another person. That is how I imagine that would be mechanically.
That is so much cooler than I thought it was. Like I was expecting something like I don't even know what I was expecting, but just not that answer. That's so great. And I mean one that really speaks into just like GMing. Like I feel like especially GMing in Daggerheart, like taking what other people say, it's like yes, yeah, hell yeah, let's do that. Like that is so great. And I was and once again, the experience on here that I was probably the most confused about, but now makes absolutely the most sense. Okay, before we jump into the last kind of more speedy section, I need you to roll me more duality, see if we get hope or fear here this time.
See, let's find out. Oh, brutal. Okay, that is a 14 with fear.
14 with fear. That brings me to another 12. Point of fear to use.
I rolled 12 on that fear dice too. That was meant for
14 with fear. And so I always like I don't want to hear your horror stories, but at the same time, yeah, let's hear some of those GM horror stories. Have you ever left a game session just frustrated or just disappointed with the session?
Yeah.
And then what is one that comes to mind? Because if you're like me, there is that one session that always comes to your mind.
So I've played a lot of TTRPGs. I have a lot of stories that some are bad, some are personal bad, but this one, I'll tell you exactly the story. This is the story. This is perfect. So remember earlier I was saying that I was doing cardboard terrain. Mm-hmm. So I want you to imagine we're doing a long campaign. It's been 3.5 years and they are approaching the end. This is like the final big fight before they move into like tier 4 epilogue shenanigans, right? Final fight. I've been prepping this for half a year. I've known from the start this is where it was going to be. I made a 6x5 battle map out of cardboard, making ruins, making a castle, making all kinds of stuff. And not to get too deep into what was going on, needless to say, there was an archdemon who had a sword. And because they had this sword, they were very powerful. And that was the big fight. They were going to have to fight this guy. Now, did I think the sword was powering them? I probably should have. Did my players think that the sword was powering them? Yes, they did. Did I put 7 gems around this huge map for them to go and try and destroy, to weaken the archdevil and all this different stuff? Yes, I did. Did I put all these miniatures around this whole map? Yes, I did. I had this all figured out, right? The very first thing that happens in this fight is the wizard had a spell. And I don't remember what the spell is. I don't remember, but needless to say, what it does is it creates a force field around an object that pushes everything else out. So they walk up and they say, I cast the spell on the sword. Now, as a GM, you have a couple options. I could just say no. I could say it doesn't work. I could say he counterspells it. This was an abjuration wizard, so he would have easily undone that counterspell. Could I have come up with some way that wouldn't work? Yes, I could. However, did I recognize in that moment that I set myself up where this sword is powering the guy and this is a genius move that they would be so happy about? Yes, I did. And so, needless to say, all that work gone in an instant. They cast the spell. I was like, I'll give him a dexterity saving throw. This is what I said. I told them straight up, this is, maybe a different use of the spell, but I'll give them a dexterity saving throw. My guy had like a plus a billion in dexterity. This guy's DC was like 18. The only thing that he could have rolled that would have failed it was a natural 1.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to know what I rolled?
Yep, I know what you rolled now.
In front of everybody, a natural 1 on the table. I rolled it in front of them because I was like, this is going to feel great. They're going to see that I'm going to roll a 5 and say, oh, he rolled a 23, nothing you can do. No, he rolled a 1 in front of everybody. And now, hindsight being 2020, there are a lot of things I could have done. But as a GM, you're like, I got to give him this win. That was really smart. I didn't think about that ahead of time. I didn't even know he had that spell. So sure enough, all my hard work up in flames. I was like, well, now I have to pivot. There were going to be waves. All the waves coming now. All this different stuff. And basically I got fully whopped. And still to this day, the players talk about it. They're like, that was such a great moment. They felt so good about it. They felt so good. And I was walking away. There was a part of me that was like, one, that's a lot of work that went down the drain. A lot of cardboard that got recycled that day that did not get used. And maybe I could have done things. Even now, I'm thinking of 15 billion ways that I could have done it to get around it and yet still reward them. But at the time, I was like, I got nothing. So you got me. You win. But that's probably the biggest L that I've taken as a GM, was casting that spell on the sword that only narratively, had I said, gave him power. And I had to live with it. I had to do it. So
I will say, and I have been in those moments maybe too often. Like, there was one moment where I didn't know a player had banish, and then they banished the big bad of the arc, and they basically played protect the cleric, and the paladin cast this one spell on the cleric that made it so as long as the paladin is within range of the cleric, all attacks are with disadvantage. And so they just basically played protect the cleric, and I could not touch them. And it was like, oh, that's the start of the fight. The big bad has failed. He's technically a devil, so he's going to the 9 hells. And now he's going to stay there. Can't come back. Great. What do I do here? There's a level of like, maybe there's a part of every GM that maybe is a little sadomasochist, where there's like, they enjoy just being toyed with like that. It's like,
Yep.
I'm very happy at the fact that you just caused me so much pain and frustration.
Right.
Um,
Can I bring a contrivance out that, oh, he had plane shift the whole time.
yeah.
You just didn't know about it. I
Yep.
write plane shift on the
Yep.
on the
And
stat
so
line.
it's one of those where you're just like, you take those L's, but at the same time, those become the most memorable moments of the campaign.
They do.
So I
They
can't
do.
hate it, even though I think about Protect the Cleric all the time. Actually, the name of the character, this was actually AJ's character named
No
Udok,
way.
who was a cleric. And in my mind, and we reference this all the time. We talk about Protect the Udok and that moment all the time. So I am right there with you.
Yep. You get it. You understand. I think every GM who's played for a while has had those moments of like,
Yep.
oh, like, dang, I got whopped. Not to spoil anything on Dodoborne, but the very last episode of the season 1, something similar occurs to me. Where I'm like,
yeah.
Look at that. And
Well, I mean, it also is
yeah.
like sometimes the players just roll, and it's like, those are better than average. Oh, we're still rolling better than average. We've been rolling better than average this whole night. And I've been rolling lower than average.
Right.
So
it's so real. Sometimes your dice won't roll higher than a 10 and you get crit on, and you're like, we're supposed to regress back to the mean.
Yep.
The expected value of a D20 is an 11. What is this?
Yeah. All right. So last section before we jump into our encounter is domains. And so we can have a quick spell this round. Like, why'd you name the domain? Tell me what it does. And then why'd you pick it?
Yeah. So the domain cards, you mean of like as far as what my abilities are?
Yeah, the domain cards. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were a couple that really spoke to me personally. There were a couple that I felt really encapsulated the character of me. One of them was Enrapture. Not that I'm enrapturing, but more that I can take people's attention really quick. I'm really good at getting people's attention. Some people, it's always interesting because the question is like, do you think you could yell really loudly on command? Do you think that you could be in public and you could scream at the top of your lungs on command? And some people have a real hard time with that. Some people, like, they can't, there's something that stops them. And I am constantly told I am too loud. I am constantly asked to bring it down a couple notches. I am a loudmouth. And so when it comes to like taking people's attention, I'm pretty good at that. Additionally, troublemaker, because not that I'm like offending people or I'm hurting people's feelings, but every so often a little bit of mischief is fun. Doing bits is a lot of fun, and so I can be a troublemaker at times. Sometimes if you have like a friend who like say has really strong opinions about the series Dune at the recent movie that come out, sometimes you just like to be like, oh man, Timothée Chalamet was really good in the second Dune movie. And just like give him a chance to vent. So give him a chance to rant, instigate a little bit. And so that was also fun. Another fun thing was the Book of Sitil. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it's all about illusion.
With these books, I'm just being honest.
It's we're creating fiction right now, and so the true thing is that it is called the Book of Sitil. And so, Book of Sitil is all about adjusting your appearance, all about putting on illusion. And that's not something I can do. I am not a magician, although I will one day master the one-handed riffle shuffle. But I do like the idea of being able to, sort of magically look like anything, right? I have a face made for makeup, I've been told. So I would love to like be able to do that more often.
I did want to ask a question. Did you have anything in your vault?
One is soothing speech because, sometimes people just need a nice word. Sometimes people just need a little bit of encouragement. I am always going to tell someone anything encouraging I can, like, especially because as I'm sort of later on in my career as a professional. And so now I have people under me that I'm having to mentor. And I just know from experience that sometimes just a nice word, just being told good job goes a long way. One of my advisors in grad school, whenever he would read my thesis, sometimes his comments would just be no or false or wrong. he wouldn't explain. That's just what he would put. So it always, it's always nice to have a nice word sometimes. And then absolutely being a hypocrite, my next vault is words of discord, because sometimes you got to put people in their place. Sometimes you got to like take people down a notch, because as engineers, and this is true for pretty much most STEM fields, I would say, is that it can sometimes be a bit of a monoculture. It can be a bit of not very diverse field. And some people in these fields have never been told no, or never been corrected, or never been told, hey, that wasn't a very good, nice thing to say. And so I know that the power I wield should sometimes be wielded for good, both defensively and offensively. So, though I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, I will be the first one that will tell someone, hey man, maybe let's not. That wasn't very cool. And I don't know if that's really discord, but, mechanically it's somewhat violent. So I don't think I'm in my real life discording people, but,
the fantasy only takes us so far.
Exactly. Sometimes you can't be nice anymore. Sometimes you need a friend to step in and cause some conflict.
Yeah.
So
cool. And this brings us to our last duality question before the encounter. So go ahead and roll me this final duality die.
I'm hoping for fear for you.
Hope or fear.
There it is. That is a 16 with fear.
16 with fear. Okay.
This D12 is rolling hot, man. This is dangerous.
16 with fear. Have you ever felt disappointed by a story or character you love?
I watched Lost when I was younger. And, if anyone who has watched Lost, you know what I'm talking about. Endings are hard. Endings are really hard. I've sort of come to an understanding that endings might be the hardest thing that a writer or a storyteller can do. Specifically, disappointed in characters or disappointed in stories?
Either. I think either the story, the character itself, just like it ended with just leaving it with disappointment.
I think the most recent example that has occurred to me on this, actually, I know a very specific moment. Do you know the movie Moulin Rouge?
I've heard it, but I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, that's okay. That was me and my partner's favorite movie for years. It was so good. We loved it so much. We loved the music. And a production of it, a play for Moulin Rouge, actually came to our city, I think a year and a half ago or so. And we were so excited. Wouldn't that be really cool? Where some of the songs were different, some of the songs were changed, and we were like, okay, maybe they'll modernize it. And they did. There were some songs that really were they had some Lady Gaga in there. It was fantastic. But the way that they ended it, they changed it. In the original movie.
Spoilers for anyone.
Spoilers for Moulin Rouge. Long story short, an artist in Bohemia, falls in love with a courtesan, and it goes badly because she is promised to a wealthy duke who will give a bunch of money to the place that she works. And so they have an affair, the Bohemian writer and the courtesan. But then his heart is broken when she is promised to the duke. So the way that the story ends, so she's dying, and it's the very last performance that they're putting on. And he, our penniless writer, breaks into the production of it, gets chased by one of the Duke's henchmen who there's a gun involved, and the gun goes away, and another character kicks the gun away, and it's really great. And he comes in, and in the middle of the performance, he says, "You never loved me. I'm so heartbroken." And then he does something really mean, which he throws some money and I'm paying my prostitute or whatever. And then he starts to walk away. And then he's leaving. He's like, you're having your own life. This is what you've chosen. You haven't chosen me. Also important note, he doesn't know that she has consumption. This will be important in 2 seconds. So they're dying. She's coughing blood. And she starts singing a song that they had together. It was so great, so beautiful. The refrain, the reprise of their song. He turns around, realizes that she always loved him, and then they embrace, and then she dies, and it's very sad. And then it ends that way. And then he's a sad, penniless writer writing the Moulin Rouge. Very sad, okay? That's the original. Makes you cry every time. The play, here's what the play does. The gun does not get kicked away. the gun winds up in the hands of the penniless writer. And he jumps on the stage and he threatens to kill himself unless she gets back with him. And so he says, I'm going to kill myself. And that's when she starts singing. And then, oh, okay, you actually do love me. So then he throws the gun away and embraces, and then she dies. And that is so bad. That is so toxic. That's awful. Like, anybody who's been in a toxic relationship with an ex who is like, if you don't get back with me, I'm going to, unalive myself. That's a real thing that has happened to friends of mine. And it is awful and terrible. And the fact that someone was like, here's how we're going to change the ending. Into that, I left so utterly disappointed. Like, I was like, who in their right mind thought that that was okay? Like, that is not good. I was so disappointed because, again, Moulin Rouge was one of my favorite movies. It was like me and Harper's movies that we would watch together. And it was so disappointing. It was so terrible. I spent good money to go watch that play too. And I was just heartbroken. So
I think that's always the hardest part is adaptations.
Yeah.
Adaptations. The one that comes to my mind is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Both times. The first one, animated, so great.
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan butchered it. But I was younger, so I didn't really have that many strong feelings. Now that I'm older, then we got that remake live on Netflix. Still disappointed. So I think about, but I try not to think about it most days, but it does pop into my head fairly often. So now that we are towards the end, though, let's jump into the encounter. Ready to go?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Right. Let's do this.
Hope, fear, hope, fear, hope, fear, terror.
Isaac, you find yourself ducking under cover beneath floorboards as you hear the sounds of cannon fire left and right. You hear the swirling and swirling of cannonballs that hit what seems to be like some sort of the side of the ship. And as you hear, it's like, where's he at? Where's he at? And you see what can only be described to as this like large individual that you know as Captain. Can you describe what your captain looks like on this ship?
Okay. So this captain is unfortunately tall. Like, so tall. I don't know how he's down here with me. He's like 7 foot tall. He has 3 eyes, 2 of which are eye patched. And he has an enormous beard that he has braided around his head because he is bald and he's very insecure about it. He has a really long crimson coat that he wears because he doesn't want people to know when he's bleeding so that his men stay bold. And he has a dry wit that confuses people sometimes, but because he's captain, people laugh because they think they're supposed to.
Yeah. He's not quite underneath with you. He's above these floorboards, and as he grabs like what he sees off the sides, he grabs the bottom of the floorboard or the top of the floorboard that you're on, pulls it up, and kind of grabs you. It's like, what are you doing hiding in here? As he like takes your frame, it's like, I need help, and then he starts like hobbling up the steps and goes up to the boat. You once again feel all these cannon and basically gunfire firing from both ships. You're in the middle of this war as you see off on the edge what looks to be this kind of naval vessel. Your crew is currently under fire and chaos erupts all over the place. I am going to spend my first fear here, and I do need you to make a agility or instinct reaction. I'll allow you to do either or, as you have to like find yourself from ducking from crossfire all sorts of all over the area.
Okay, I think I will go with instinct. Okay. My eyes so wide, so high as I'm looking around, and wow, okay, that is a 20 with fear. I don't think with reaction. I don't think it matters, but
yeah, well, 20. Yeah, with the reaction roll, it does not quite do anything. But you managed to kind of scrape by the gunfire. You are going to take half damage from this, so that is going to be 7, 9 halves, so 5 points of physical damage to your person as you get kind of grazed barely as the captain kind of finished climbing up atop. You're more than welcome to use armor if you wish here as well.
I'm gonna say I'm being carried right now. I think he's picked me up by my scruff, so I'm kind of like resisting, and I'm like, not on the coat, Captain, please. And so I don't think.
It's like, you know your job. Get everyone back on in order. As he kind of like pulls you over, and you notice that he's like trying to like get some stuff up. As he places you at the top, you have a roll on this ship. As he places, you see the rest of your crew scattering around. I am going to put a counter here or a countdown here in a moment, but I want to know, what is your role on this ship?
So I am the ship's. I'm not just the bard. I'm not just the entertainment. I'm also the historian of the ship, because this ship has traveled across the seas, and they need someone who knows how to write and someone who can not maybe embellish the story a little bit. And as the only one who knows how to read and write on the ship, that is me. And so thinking it could be a fun way to travel around and help my good friend Captain out, who's now my best friend, no matter what he thinks. He's my best friend now. That is my role on the ship. So the captain has seen the way that I can talk to people, and most of my time is spent writing things down and helping the quartermaster, I think they are, with the supplies and doing basic maths.
So with that, you kind of get up in your position as you notice everyone scattering. As this is not the ship that this crew has known to love, as this is an upgrade, as they have commandeered this ship, and the naval is trying to stop that. You knowing this very well, everyone is kind of lost. I'm going to throw a countdown. I rolled a 6. So you need, and here's how I'm going to roll it, 6 successes before we reach 3 failures. But the turn plays over to you.
Okay.
What do you wish to do?
So I'm standing up near the wheel of this enormous ship that no one quite knows how to work. They definitely thought that it would be just the same as their old ship, but unfortunately it's got 3 sails instead of 2. And I'm looking around, I'm seeing chaos. And in these times of chaos and strife, they need a strong leader. And the captain has thrown me out here, and I'm to be his voice. I understand that right now. And so I am going to use rousing speech, which once per long rest, I can give a heartfelt, inspiring speech. And anyone within far range, it's pretty far, can clear 2 stress. And so everyone here, I'm assuming my companions, my compatriots, they look stressed right now. They don't quite know what they're doing. So I'm going to yell out, fellow sailors, now is not the time to be scared or afraid. Now is the time to rise up. You see now our enemies before us. I point back at the ship. They want to stop us from all the cool shit we want to do. And we don't let anybody stop the cool shit we want to do. Isn't that right? We don't take shit from nobody. And we don't let people stop us from taking shits. Ain't that right? Crew on 3. 1, 2, 3. And then
with that, I'd say go ahead and make a presence roll, and I'll give you advantage since you are invoking your rousing speech this time around.
I rolled a 2 on that. So that brings me to a total of 18 with hope.
18 with hope. You, the rest of your crew trying to figure out where exactly to go. They all kind of square up as they look. It's like, what do we do? Like, as they kind of looking around trying to figure out, they realize that you're the voice of reason in this moment. They're all kind of just grabbing things, people kind of grabbing the mast, and they all kind of hold onto it and just pause in place, and all eyes turn towards you as the captain kind of backs you up. It's like, all right, he knows this ship better than all of us. Let's all figure this out together. And then the captain just kind of like steps forward and looks at you as well.
Yes, you there. I point at a tall simia and I say, you take that rope and you pull on it real hard, and that will lower the sails, and that's what we need. Also, you there, and I point at a really small halfling and I say, man this cannon and fire at the enemy. And then I look at what people are standing next to, and then I just point at them and tell them to do the thing that they're standing next to.
Yeah, make me a knowledge check for me, Ben.
So smart. I know ships so well. 10 with hope.
10 with hope. You start pointing at some of these places, and they all look. It's like okay, and they start running over to it, and they start grabbing up parts of the rope, the cannons, and they start moving it. And unlike your previous ship, a lot of the stuff on top deck was built for a much smaller vehicle. With this being this much larger galleon to kind of fit the growing size of your crew, they're all kind of having growing pains. They're holding some of these things, realizing some of the cannons don't quite turn on a pivot, and as they do so, I'm going to take my turn, as that is a failure, as you just feel, I'm going to spend a fear as well, as a harpoon kind of like hits the side of your ship, and you now have other individuals who are starting to board. I'm kind of swinging across and kind of pulling you towards. So I'm going to say that that's currently 1 success, 1 failure, and I'm going to spend 1 more fear as one individual gets on the top and begins to engage and is attempting to make an attack roll towards you, Isaac. I'm pretty sure this does, because this is one of the rolls that I'm sure will hit, a 19 plus 4 for a total of 23.
So that would typically hit. However, I'm small and diminutive, and my eyes are so wide. I was expecting this. This was one of the 50 billion bad things that I thought would happen on this trip that I thought about beforehand. And so I will use Danger Sense, in which once per rest, I can mark a stress to force an adversary to reroll an attack against me. Actually, quick question. Are they within very close range?
I would say they are. They're definitely within very close. They have to get in melee at least.
Nice. Then in an act of self-preservation, I use some Danger Sense. I use my eyes open, and I see that coming, and that's what I imagine is going to happen. And then after the reroll is what actually happens.
So that is going to be an 8 plus 4 for a total of 12.
Oh, shit. That still hits.
That still hits. Okay, with that, the blade from this individual that's kind of like larger than a normal dagger but smaller than a saber, that's going to be 11 points of physical damage towards you, as you now have someone within melee range. Your captain is still there, ready and available, as the captain kind of begins to engage. You have a moment to either help your captain here or continue referring to the crew. You kind of feeling this moment of like, okay, I need to get serious. What do you do?
Oh, I just got hit. It hurts. I yell, and then I kind of ham it up a little bit. I had used an armor slot, so it kind of hit my armor, but I want to really make it seem like they hit me hard. So I'm like, you fiend! And then I look at the captain, who you said is engaged with people, right? And I figure I'm within close range of him. We're probably sticking close together. And so I see this guy, and he's got me. I'm like stepping back, hoping to distract him a little bit. And I'm going to think in my brain to one of my spells that I have from a book that I read long ago called the Book of Sigil. And I'm going to spend 2 hope to cast Parallella on an ally. And I assume the captain is an ally. That's fine.
Yeah.
The next time that he makes an attack, he can hit an additional target within range that their attack roll would succeed against. So it's gonna, if he hits the guy in front of him, then my thought is that he'll also hit the guy that's hitting me. So I spend 2 hope to do that.
As you do that, go ahead and I'm going to say that go ahead and make me an attack roll. You kind of with your primary weapon, but we'll make that represent the captain at this point.
All right, here we go. That is a crit on 9s.
That is a critical
on
9. So I would say go ahead and roll your max damage. So that's going to be, I believe, from what I'm seeing, a flat 18 plus your 3d6. So go ahead and roll them.
6, 3, 5, 11 plus 18 is 29. 29 magic damage.
So with that is certainly going to, the captain kind of takes a look, or grabs the hold of the other guy. He kind of fends one off with one blade, and then as the other individual kind of goes and is about to leap again to attack you, he kind of just grabs him by his scruff and like slams him on the other guy. It's like, I'll take care of them. Figure out how to get this ship up and running. That is going to be 2 successes. So you're at 3 successes, 1 failure. You still need 3 more before 2 fails. Isaac, as the rest of the crew, more of these naval officers start to board the ship. There's a little because you're kind of harpooned in by their galleon. What are you doing at the moment?
Okay, so the ship is pretty close. So would you say that it's within very far range of us?
I would say it's within. I would say either far, very far. I would think there's different portions of the ship that are at a couple different ranges right now.
Yeah. So I'm I need to like gas up the crew a little bit. It seems they're all at their posts. They might be a little stressed out. They're having trouble. So I'm going to do something that I think is really going to excite them and gas them up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hop up on the railing. I hop up on the railing because I'm kind of small. I can do that. And I point at the enemies and I say, you all are trying to hold us down. You're trying to stop the march of progress on us getting bigger ships and better stuff. Well, I say nay. You won't stop us at all. And in fact, we'll take you down in a blaze of glory. And I'm going to think in my mind of a spell that I have, which is the Book of Norai. And I'm going to point my scepter that I have a scepter. And I pointed at the ship, specifically at the point of the ship where the harpoon has been sent out and is held at. And I'm going to cast Fireball. I'm just going to cast Fireball. I make a spellcast roll against a target within very far range.
Yeah.
And before I even say anything more, let's see if I succeed. That is, with my spellcast, that is a 16.
16 is going to succeed, so go ahead and roll the damage. And with Fireball being d20s, it's going to be 3 d20s plus 5 at the ship.
Oh, there's a 20 in there. 20 plus 5 plus 19. Oh my gosh. 20 plus 5, 25 plus 19 is 44 plus 5, which is 40 plus, why can't I do 49? 49 magic damage.
Yeah.
So it's it. And it also says, on a success, big explosion. Target and all creatures within very close range must make a reaction roll. They must beat a 13.
That is a natural 3, plus the ship gets you to plus 5 is only an 8.
Let's go. Oh.
So,
I got my eyes squinted and I point and I
49
fire.
points of damage, you fire. As soon as you do that, the rest of your crew's like, yeah, screw the cannons, grab the fireworks, and they start running over for like a bag of, or a box of fireworks, and they grab it and just start firing the fireworks at the other ship. At one point, so much is going on. The ship now in flames on one side, and then the rope that was currently tethered to yours kind of severs. It's going to be another success here. You have about now, I would say, like 10 or so different kind of naval officers on the ships fighting the rest of the crew. But you're able to kind of move free as the ship kind of was pulling backwards to kind of drag you, now kind of move at full sail. But the sails are currently stuck. I am going to spend a fear to kind of invoke the sails being stuck in order to kind of push through. So I'm going to take a second. The countdown will not advance until those sails are dealt with. So, with that being said, how do you deal with this? You noticing this massive problem that needs to be addressed for you to safely get out of here free.
So I look up at the crow's nest, and I'm going to focus myself and think back on a spell that I learned in the Book of Iliad called telepathy. So I'm going to spend a hope to open a line of mental communication to the person up in the crow's nest. And I'm gonna look up there, and there's like a Guitar-y guy up there. There's like a Guitar-y person. And I say, Skimbleshanks, do you read me?
Skimbleshanks here. And looks down at you, it's like, yes, what?
Okay, we got a problem. It looks like the sails are stuck. Here's what I need you to do. You got claws, don't you?
He looks out, like he pulls up like all like 8 of his claws, because he is missing 2 from previous encounters. That's why he's up at the crow's nest now.
That's right. You got 8 of them. Here's what I need you to do. All right? I need you to slide down the sails very dramatically, and you see at the very bottom, the part that rolls out there, okay? It's stuck because it looks like some of the debris of half of a person got stuck in there, and its burnt remains got to get taken care of. So I need you to slide down the sails. Don't scratch the sails. You can hold the rope, slide down it, and get rid of that corpse. Can you do that for me, Skimbleshanks?
I think so. With that, either make me, I'd say this is either a presence or a knowledge. I'll let you choose. And I think one of your experience, I'll help you move, probably works out here if you wish to use it.
I think so too. I was thinking that myself. I'm going to use, I'll help you move, because I'm telling him what to do. I'm ordering him around. So I will add a +3 to this. I roll a 21 on the dice. With presence, I'll be 25 +3, 28 with fear.
28 with fear. Skibbles kind of jumps forward. Initially, like, he jumps and kind of overzealously, not realizing the ship is moving a little bit, and kind of almost snags it, falls. But as he does so, he is going to kind of barely grab like one of the claws or on the sail, and kind of like starts unfurling and grabs a hold of the other individual. You see Skibbles kind of drop to the floor. I'm going to say Skibbles drops down and gets knocked completely unconscious along with the burnt body, but the sails do kind of fall over. You lose mental communication. Skibble says, "Oh no, not a dog!" And then you just hear silence.
Skibbles! Skibbleshakes, are you there? Oh,
Nothing.
uh-oh.
No sound. You'll have to check on him later to see if he's okay. That is going to
I'll
be
ask forgiveness later.
But it's going to be my turn. I'm going to say that one of these individual officers kind of takes notice and looks up at you and realizes that you're kind of giving some of these instructions, and is going to kind of just like run forward. And it's almost like he kind of jumps on a couple barrels and like jumps right in front of you now at this point, and is going to make an attack roll towards you. This guy has dual sabers in his hand. That is going to be, I rolled a 20. That is a natural 20. So just as you crit, so do I. And that is going to be, this one might be a chunky hit here. I believe this is 31 points of physical damage to you. And I will mark a stress, as it's also going to deal the same amount of HP as stress, as he's just kind of like full on cleaving at you. So what kind of wound would that normally be, and are you using any armor?
So my severe damage threshold is a 16, so it does not
Sounds
quite double it.
Yep,
But,
sounds quite like a support.
Yeah, so I'm gonna use the armor slot. Ouch! And I take 2 hits of HP and 2 hits of stress.
Yeah.
I was feeling too good in the moment. I was still kind of riding that high of blowing up the side of the ship that this brought me back down to earth. It was much needed.
Yeah. And with that, I will spend one more fear to kind of ante up, as he's kind of pushes you, and he's going to kind of kick you down a little bit, or kind of push you back, and he's going to make another attack roll here. So I do want to know that, I kid you not, is another natural 20. I wish I rolled like this on my normal games. I'm just being perfectly honest.
I think I pushed off. He kicks me like off the railing, and I fall 10 feet.
I'd say like at this point you're kind of on the railing. He kind of kicks you off. With that, I'm gonna say go ahead and mark. With that natural 20, I'm gonna have you mark 2 stress here. As you're on the fringes at the edge, Captain kind of takes note, and at this point wants to assist, but he's still taking on now 3 individuals. That is going to be, not quite as much, because I did roll much lower. 22 points of physical damage.
All right, I'm going to use my severe. That is, I will use my last armor slot, so that I am only down to 1 HP left. Yeah, this guy kicked me off and then fully link down air and melee, just right on top of me, right at my stomach.
Before I pass it back to you, you take a look at this individual, and at first, in the chaos of everything, you just saw a quick flash, but as he's standing in front of you, he looks down at you. You have a full idea of his face, and you see him clearly as you recognize this individual, as maybe there's some sort of background to this character's story. Describe to me like what this individual looks like, and what relationship does this version of Isaac have with this individual?
This person that they're standing on top of me. They just straight up stabbed a sword.
You're like hanging at the edge of like the ship, and they're standing over it and are about to like kick your fingers off.
I look up and I see my nemesis from Bard School, which I went to, I guess. He was the same guy. We had a will they, won't they for the longest time. We were like lovers, but also deeply competitive with one another. And I think that he was he wrote short stories, and I was more of a novel kind of person. And so it never worked out between us. That's just too different. And so he is looking down at me, and I flashed back to the last conversation I had with him, where we're standing. It's graduation. Our hats have been flown high into the sky and turned into birds and flown away. And as we stand there, hatless and in our graduation robes, he has gotten a residency with the Navy to, I guess, be in the Navy instead of going into the private sector. He went public, and he's telling me that I should join him and that we could do great things together. And I think that as I think back to my father, who was a musician in the Navy, who died tragically somehow, and I refuse his offer. And he told me that if I walk out on him now, I will never see him again. And with a tear going down my eye, I say nothing, and I turn around and walk away. And as I'm standing there, I'm bleeding out, and I look up and I see him there holding a sword.
Yeah, the blood kind of dripping from the side of your face. I'd say he probably looks at you and says, "So this is where you landed."
Hey, I guess I got to see you again at least.
Taking the moment, there's a moment of vulnerability where there's a hesitation. What do you do in that moment of hesitation? Or in the moment of their hesitation?
In the moment of their hesitation, here's exactly what I do. I want to try for the first time in my life to do a successful pull-up. And I want to, once I can get my chin up, I'm going to grab him on the back of the head and plant a deep kiss on him.
Go ahead and make for me a strength roll here.
Here we go. I was hoping I would roll strength at some point. A 12 with hope.
12 with hope. You begin to pull up, and the individual kind of grabs you. And for a moment, like this is the last time they've touched you for a number of years. And there's a moment where they sit and they're not quite sure what to make of this. But then something like twinges in their eye and they say, "We've both grown." And they're going to kind of grab you and throw you off the ship. I need you to either make me an instinct, or I'd say either an agility. Or if you think there's another way you get out of this would be a reaction roll though.
Okay.
There's going to be a second fail.
This is a reaction.
This would be a reaction.
I don't really have anything for reaction, so I think what exactly, if we looked at my face, I was like, he was holding me there, and I thought for sure that he would see my pouty lips and want to give me a kiss as well. He wanted a little bit more of that tailed goblin action. And so I think I'm genuinely surprised when he throws me off the ship. And so I don't think I have it within me to make a reaction at all. I think I'm just so surprised that didn't work this time. It always worked before. I don't understand. And I think it's not until the cold splash of water that hits me that I realize what happened.
You kind of drop to the bottom, and you see the ship now going. At this point, the other ship is not necessarily worried about anyone who's dropped in. They can probably grab them later, but your ship continues, and the other one follows through behind. I'm going to give you this moment, as this would be our final roll. We're one success, one fail away. What is Isaac doing here?
So I think that Isaac, much like Isaac, has a deep-seated fear of the deep ocean, and so being inside of the dark black abyss of the ocean is probably the most terrifying thing that could happen to him. But he's not thinking about that right now. He's just looking at the ship that was his home for the last 6 years and is seeing it go away. And there's a part of him that realizes, I'm never going to get back there. Oh no. But then there's another ship right here that's a little closer, that was a little behind that I just blew up. And I think that Isaac, in his mind, is like, I bet they didn't see me blow them up, so they may not know that I did it. I bet I could blame someone else on the ship. Trying my best with the enemy might be better than getting eaten by a whale. So I'm gonna maybe stretch something a little bit. Let's see how far you're willing to go with me here. I'm gonna try and cast Mystic Tether to see if I can grab onto the ship and maybe ride it a little bit and swim or pull myself up closer to it, just as the equivalent of shooting a magical lasso around the enormous ship in front of me.
Go and make a spellcast roll for me, then.
This is a stretch, so I will accept. Roll 2 d20s. That's not correct. Hang on 1 second. It is a crit on ones.
Which in Daggerheart,
It's a crit.
2 doubles, regardless if they're 12s or 1s. is a crit.
Deserve it, but it's only
As
appropriate it was on
you
once.
begin to cast Mystic Tether, it kind of expels outwards, and it does exactly as you say. You grab a hold of it, and it brings you together. But the ships are continuing the chase. The sails were unfurled on yours, and so the chase continues. You get to a point where you now have been kind of traveling for a day or so before this ship goes on land. You don't know where your crew has gone, as they were not successful, as you managed to buy enough time and with your instructions to get your crew out of the way. But you now find yourself somewhere on an island that is naval allegiant. I want to know, a 1 week later, where do we find Isaac?
So, a naval adjacent island. So, like do we think naval outpost?
I would
a
probably
naval
say,
fort?
probably a naval outpost of some kind, looking for repairs for the giant hole that you have on the front of their ship, or that you made.
I think Isaac's play here. Here's what Isaac is exactly going to do. Isaac is going to assume no one has heard of him in this place. So he's going to walk in, introduce himself as Isaac Burns, and say, "Hey, I can do math, and I can do writing, and I was actually captured on that ship earlier because I was floating on Flotsam, and turns out the guy who does the math, I was just talking to them, he died in the fight. He actually fully died in the fight. And also I heard there were changelings on that ship. There were shape changers. So if you see a guy that looks like him, he's not actually the guy. So I just thinking that there's an opportunity here. Like, I'm looking for some work, and your guy that used to do all the math is now dead, unfortunately. R.I.P. Rest in peace, that guy. I think we could work something out. I think we could do something here. How about we help each other out, and I can do the math for you? And yeah, how does that sound? That sounds great, right? What's your name, by the way?
Check for me. Take a presence check for me.
So that on the dice is 19 plus 4, 23 with fear.
23 with fear. You explain this, and the individual in front of you has, for the most part, been fairly tired. Looks like he's been here for a while. It's like, let's fill out an application, and hands you basically a form as you start filling it out. This goes on, and you are undetected for the course of the next 3 some weeks. But with that fear, I will say I'll spend it. As you finally make it onto a crew, headed back onto a naval vessel and back into the ocean. And as you are walking up for roll call, the individual officer that's standing there saying everyone's name says, "Isaac Burns," and you look, and it's still that partner that is still in that on-off again relationship. And where this story goes is up for another time.
Well, hey there, sailor.
But with that said, Isaac, that is the end of this episode of Duality. A little long, and so for those who were watching, first, thank you for watching the entirety of this episode. I hope that you enjoyed this just as much as I did, because I think this was some of the best conversation. All the conversations have been great.
All the conversations.
But yeah, with that being said, Isaac, I'd want to ask you one more time: where can we find you and your crew?
Yes. So, hi, I'm Isaac Allen Burns, the GM of the Dodoborne Podcast. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Go give us a listen. We've first season is out. Season 2 will be coming start of July. Very excited. Thank you so much for having us. And I gotta say, man, this is, I don't know if you realize it or not. You have been given exclusive rights to the face reveal of the GM of the Dodoborne Podcast. It is no longer just my little cat Pumpkin to be my avatar.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and as always, I mean, if Dodoborne will be at Gen Con, BladeBound
Yes.
will be at Gen Con, come
Yes.
find both of us. We all want to say hi to you and support out for all the channels. So my last little thing is go subscribe over to Dodoborne. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And other than that, we will see you in the next episode of Duality.
all right. See you then. Bye.
From ink and steel, stories are forged. We are BladeBound Saga.